Ooh, it's got a drop landed on me. Very cold drop. Thank you.
Except for the ground that we're standing on, the rocks to the side of it that we kind of move, and the lights. We're all built by blocks. The water that you hear rushing past you isn't just rushing through this field. As you're wandering from here into our next space, I would love for you to keep in mind that everything that you're seeing is formed by water. The next stop that we're going to make is a room that we will not all fit in. What I'm going to do is share a short story with the part of the group that will fit there, and then I'm hoping that someone will want to step up and share that story with the next group of folks who's able to come in. So be thinking about if you're really going to...
And we've got more than half of the battery left.
I know, it's okay. Careful. Okay.
Look at how high it goes right here. Wow. Okay. I can't. I have to wait for the person who's having me.
Right here, it's called the Dome. The dome is named after the dome of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. The rumor is that in the early 1920s, we had just kind of discovered the cave, wanted to give some tours through here, but didn't have a whole lot of funding to pay rangers to give tours. So we started to name a couple of things here and there after things in Washington, D.C., and then just like cross our fingers and hope that they will want to throw us some money. That did work for quite a while. Eventually, the company that I work for, Sequoia Parks Conservancy, took over. We now have a really kind of mutually beneficial relationship with rangers, so even though rangers are not giving tours anymore, we hope that this cell kind of popped up. It was not super exciting, looked a lot like bacteria, acted like bacteria, and for a long time, that was the only kind of cell there was. That cell made more cells. It had some really important components to it. It had DNA in it. And it had RNA, and it had a metabolism so it could turn food into energy. That cell kind of branched off and made a couple of different kinds of cells, but for a very, very long time, there were only these individual cells. Then around 1.2 billion years ago, that's still so long that it's hard to imagine, some cells came together and they made the first multi-celled organism. Around 600 million years ago, things had gotten to a point where we had some animals, we had some jellyfish, we had some sea sponges. 100 million years after that, we had our first worm. Is anyone else here excited about worms? Like such a worms person, yeah. This worm was not super exciting to look at, but it had some really important things in it. It had muscles, and it had light receptors that would soon turn into eyes. 100 million years after that, we had some jawless fish floating around in that big watery world that was ours. And then one day, one of those fish was able to make a living on land. From there, our animal kingdom explodes. For a long time, we only have insects that can crawl, and then we have insects that can fly. And then we have animals that have backbones. For a while, there's a period where the earth is covered in dragonflies with 2-foot wingspans, and then dinosaur-like birds that can only hop and look like half-plucked chickens, and then eventually, a walking creature covered in hair that would become humans. Eventually. Took quite a while. All of this was only able to happen because that first cell was able to make adaptations. Now, adaptations is just nature's way of making things a little bit different. If we couldn't make adaptations, everybody would be exactly the same. Sometimes adaptations can be really helpful to an organism, and sometimes they're not quite as helpful. We have several creatures who live inside of this cave that can only live here because of the adaptations that we've made. And we tend to think about creatures with adaptations as having adjusted to the place that they live. But it's not really how the science works. Basically, these adaptations are just pure luck. Sometimes an animal has a baby that has an adaptation that's really unhelpful, like 6 toes, or like some weird extra bones. But sometimes an animal has a baby that has some adaptations that are really useful. Like when a millipede has a baby that has a little bit less coloring than others. And then that millipede can come and make a life somewhere dark and gloomy like a cave. Or when an animal has a baby that doesn't have eyes. And that baby can come and make a living in somewhere like a cave. We have lots and lots and lots of special animals who live inside of the cave who have made these kind of random adaptations that make it possible to live here. In an area of this cave called Whitewash Canyon, we have some isopods that are white. That's basically like a roly-poly, but they don't have any color, and they crawl around and they look for food kind of in some water. We have some animals like white centipedes or tiny white millipedes that we find in here all of the time. And we have a really... Oh, wow. It's been quite a while.
When we came, there were no lights. We had flashlights.
Oh, yeah, you might have gone on a different kind of tour. We do a flashlights only tour, so I'm wondering if that's the kind that you went on before.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
2011? 2011, yeah.
Oh,
I don't think there were any of these lights.
that's interesting.
They issued flashlights.
Yeah. We do that for some of our tours. I'm wondering if maybe you were on one of those tours.
I could, maybe next time, I could send the other phone. Right, because the tour guide the Crystal Cave.
Oh, cool. Very neat.
2011.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah, it was, you remember. Yeah, this is for me.
It's too